For this week's report, tips to slow the spread of mosquitoes. The fire department becomes RSI certified. A mid-year financial report from the select board. Connors Climb 5K returns in just a few weeks. The community honors crossing guard Russel Hoyt. The Beer and Chili Fest is just around the corner. A history of Pairpoint Park. Exeter Police and Fire grant a Make-A-Wish. For Exeter TV, I'm Dan Monchek, and this is the Exeter Biweekly Report. Let's get started. Good afternoon, Exeter. Thanks for tuning in to the longest biweekly report in history.
Woo! Yes! Yes!
Bob went away on vacation, so between Gabe and I, we've got 9 segments to get through. If you like supporting us and the work we do, please consider hitting the subscribe button and liking this video to help spread the word about the show and all things Exeter. For our first segment, mosquitoes are once again on the rise, so with the help of Health Officer Madison Bailey, we put together a call to action to help prevent the spread of dangerous diseases.
Despite their reputation as an everyday nuisance, mosquitoes often pose a much greater danger than most people realize. They can perpetuate and spread diseases that pose major threats to humans and other animals alike. Diseases such as Triple E, Eastern Equine Encephalitis, which our area of New Hampshire faced off against last year. Despite rising cases in surrounding towns, Triple E never managed to strike in Exeter, and a large part of that was thanks to the efforts of the town's health officer, Madison Bailey, getting a jump on preventative measures early. A major contributor being the use of larvicide and adulticide spraying with the assistance of northeast vegetation and mosquito control. With fall just around the corner, the mosquito population once again poses a health risk to Exeter's population. To help stem the tide, there are several preventative measures everyone in town should take to help stop the spread of the disease. The first rule everyone knows is to wear insect repellent, specifically ones that contain DEET, picaridin, or something with lemon eucalyptus on it. On top of that, you should always wear protective clothing that covers your skin, and limit outdoor activities to times mosquitoes are not out and about. They're most active from dusk to dawn. While it's easy to work on stopping mosquitoes from attacking you, it's another thing to stop them from breeding around your homes. Mosquitoes lay their eggs in standing water. It does not matter the source of this water, as long as it's still enough for the eggs to hatch. This can be in something as little as a bottle cap, or as big as a tarp laying in a backyard. Children's toys, buckets, bottles, saucers, bird baths, and even gutters are prime locations for mosquitoes to lay their eggs. And when it rains, it gives them ample room to make more babies. That's why if you see standing water, you should dump it immediately. If it cannot be dumped, it should be covered or stored as soon as possible. The less places mosquitoes can spawn, the less they'll be around to harass you. For home and business owners, this also includes drains and gutters. If clogged, can have plenty of space for them to lay their eggs, and you should stay attentive if you want to contribute to helping this issue. While the town does what it can to stop the spread of mosquitoes, it takes everybody to stay alert and attentive, as with one step taken to stop them is as big of a step as any other. Protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your community.
With the loss of ASL services in Exeter and the surrounding areas, the Exeter Fire Department got to work getting their paramedics RSI certified. Here's what that means for the station.
As changes come and go throughout the community, the Exeter Fire Department must be ready to adapt and react accordingly. When the department no longer had access to call in other stations to assist in rapid sequence intubation, or RSI, earlier this year, they moved quickly to train and certify their paramedics on the protocol themselves in order to continue saving lives on the fly.
RSI stands for Rapid Sequence Intubation, and it's the process where we sedate and then intubate, so we put a breathing tube in for somebody, and that's for people that are critically injured or have severe respiratory problems or a compromised airway. So we're trying to make sure that they can get oxygen and air into their body without compromising that.
We take a patient to the emergency room, and within 5 or 10 minutes, the patient's then intubated because they had the ability to do so. A lot of illnesses and traumas, your body does everything it can to compensate. So your body's really good at compensating. It'll shut down other areas and pick up other ones to try and make it so you survive as long as you can. However, that can only do that for so long, and eventually patients will either go into respiratory distress or full-on cardiac arrest. And if we can stop them in the track before that happens and then take over the airway, we can ensure that they're being oxygenated and ventilated appropriately.
We recognized a gap in our service that we used, and it was largely what we used them for. And with that going away, we realized we needed to start our own process. We reached out to the state, got all the information we needed to get certified. We used an outside agency to do the training. He came in and did training for the entire department. The first training was for the entire department, so everybody that's a certified provider, EMS provider for the department went through the first part.
We've had to do 2 full classroom days with Eric Yeager. He's an instructor who came in, and a lot of it was lecture. And then we did probably 6 hours of just RSI scenarios, running through different intubation techniques, all the medications. And then since then, every paramedic who becomes licensed has to have 5 live intubations. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we got the approval from the state that we were officially certified. And because of only having 5 paramedics who are currently licensed, 1 shift has 2 paramedics on that are. And that shift had a call where they ended up needing to intubate a person who traditionally we would not have been able to. So they were able to sedate and paralyze them, do the RSI, and then transport the patient to Portsmouth Regional. But now we're going to be able to sedate and paralyze the patients and then intubate them and continue breathing for them. That way their body doesn't have the ability to crash before we do so. The typical call where we need to RSI someone maybe happens in Exeter a handful of times a year. They're usually pretty significant calls, and we did have the ability before to call Exeter ALS, and that's where they were kind of a lifeline for us, being so close in town, if they were available and having that capability. When it is necessary, you absolutely need it, and it's a life-saving intervention. And I've heard of calls, not necessarily in Exeter, but other towns where they didn't have the capability and there wasn't anyone around with the capability, and that patient ended up going into cardiac arrest. So if you can stop the dying before that point, then you might be able to at least get them to definitive care where they can try and fix the problem.
It gives us the ability to provide that service to the community instead of having to call another agency in or wait for an agency to come in to provide that service. So it's quicker service and treatment sooner.
We're entering into budget season as summer comes to a close, and that means catching up on our mid-year financial report from our Meeting Minute series. This is your Meeting Minute for the August 18th Select Board meeting. The meeting began by announcing the voluntary resignation of Russ Dean from his position as town manager. The Select Board appointed the Assistant Town Manager, Melissa Roy, as the interim town manager effective immediately. Then the town's water and sewer superintendent, Steve Dalton, came in front of the board to discuss a water restriction due to drought conditions in Exeter.
Right now, the water supply is obviously diminishing with no rain really in sight for the next 10 days.
The board decided to raise the water restriction to level 2, as Mr. Dalton explained.
It changes landscape watering by odd number addresses is allowed on odd numbered days. Landscaping watering by even number addresses is allowed on even number days, and still the same restriction with the hours of no watering between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m.
The board went on to hear a mid-year financial report from Exeter's financial director, Corey Stevens.
Thank you all for indulging me, allowing me to come in this evening and speak to you about our town results as of June 30th for the General Fund, Water Fund, and Sewer Fund.
Mr. Stevens discussed some of the financial highlights from the past 6 months. This includes the implementation of 3 collective bargaining contracts for police, fire, and DPW. The last piece of these contracts was the wage increase, which has now been fulfilled. The town also completed all of its borrowing, with bond sales taking place in July. The town borrowed $19 million for 3 projects, $17.5 million for the police and fire substation, $1.26 million borrowed for the repair of the Linden Street Bridge, and lastly, $575,000 for a new fuel island at DPW. Mr. Stevens went on to discuss the new credit rating the town recently received. The rating showed a stable outlook on the town, with a rating of AA+, which is just below the highest level of AAA.
Some of the positives about the town were it's diverse, it's got a diverse and growing economy, it's got a stable operating environment, strong tax base, and stable financial performance.
Mr. Stevens finished his report discussing the revenue and expenses for the town as of June 30th. So far, the town received $11.3 million in revenue, which makes up 46% of what was budgeted. Mr. Stevens said the percentage is pretty consistent with the prior year. He went on to discuss the town's expenses, which is $10.7 million so far. This makes up 44% of the town's budget, which is the same percentage at this time last year. The next select board meeting will take place on September 2nd in the Novak Room. See you there. The annual Connors Climb 5K returns to Exeter in just a few weeks. Here's everything you need to know about the event. Every year in Exeter, the Connors Climb 5K brings families, friends, and the community together, all united by one cause: suicide prevention and mental health awareness. The Connors Climb Foundation was started in 2014 with a mother's mission after the tragic loss of her 14-year-old son, Connor.
Tara made it her mission so that no other family would have to go through what she went through.
What started as a local effort to bring suicide training to one school has now grown to 140 schools statewide.
Our training really focuses on teaching kids how to find that trusted adult and when is it time for them to take the conversation that maybe they're having with their friends, and when it gets too serious, go find that trusted adult to get help for their friend who might be struggling.
Connors Climb doesn't stop with these trainings. They empower young students to come together and stop the stigma around mental health through their Youth Ambassador program.
They develop their own volunteer plans that they want to do in their own community, and then we work with them one-on-one to guide them. It's really inspiring to see this next generation be more comfortable talking about mental health and then use their voices for good.
This year's 5K takes place on Saturday, September 21st at the Seacoast School of Technology in Exeter. Registration begins at 8 a.m. and the run kicks off at 9.
It's more than just a 5K, so it is a community event where everybody there is trying to get rid of the stigma that surrounds mental health. You're going to see a lot of friendly faces. Exeter is a very supportive community, so we love seeing a lot of people out there supporting Connors Climb that day.
You can find more information about Connors Climb and this year's 5K on their website at connorsclimb.org. When longtime crossing guard for the Lincoln Street School, Russel Hoyt, passed away, members of the community rallied to memorialize him with a bench in Park Street Common.
Among many things, Russel Hoyt was a community staple. His years spent as a Lincoln Street School crossing guard left a lasting impression on students and parents alike who met him on a day-to-day basis. When news of his passing made its waves onto the Exeter, New Hampshire Community Forum, members of the community flooded the post with condolences and tales of Russel. One particular community member, Anna Grazier, was moved by his passing and decided that she wanted to help and support Russel and his family by opening a GoFundMe donations page in order to accrue enough money to get Russel a memorial bench through the Exeter Parks and Recs program. She was very successful.
I thought, oh my gosh, this man was at my own children's, he was a part of their daily school routine for years, every year that they were at Lincoln Street and Main Street School. He was there every day, and he always was calm and gentle and always protected them crossing the street. And even though that's a small part of everyone's day, I think they loved having that dependable, warm, gentle adult who was part of their day every day. It made them feel safe and protected and cared for. So I just decided to go for it and see what we could come up with, and I just dove in. The goal was achieved in, I want to say, under 2 weeks. I think it took a little more than a week. It was really heartwarming to see these donations come in from so many different people. I think it was 63 or 64 donors came together to make it happen. And they actually raised a little bit more than our goal. So we had a little envelope of cash that we walked over and gave to Mrs. Hoyt.
Now, Russell's family meets with Parks and Rec to get a look at the bench for the first time.
So when Anna launched it, it was really a groundswell, and you got really people, because Mr. Hoyt had been a crossing guard for so many years. Kids had grown up with him being a staple there. So we knew we wanted to do Park Street Common. Then we met with Anna on site prior to where do we want to place the bench. We try to be systematic about it, so it's not in the playing field or like right in danger of being destroyed, because obviously these are expensive benches. This was a great opportunity for the community to come together. honestly. Russel Hoyt had created such a legacy in town that it was an easy lift for those community members. But anytime the community can rally around an individual or a family, I mean, Exeter steps up in a big way. They've done it for numerous families, numerous loved ones. So I say the easiest thing for this is Exeter is a community, and go back to the old days of everyone knowing everyone no matter what, and will take money out of their own pocket to help.
The bench now sits across from the playgrounds in Park Street Common, right down the street from Russell's home, within walking distance of those who loved him to spend time on the bench and reminisce. Of course, who could talk about Russell the most than his own wife, Anne-Marie Hoyt.
One day I happened to be home. I worked as a telephone operator for New England Telephone. And he came, and we kind of were kidding back and forth. And apparently, I guess he liked what he saw. So the next time he came, he asked my mother how old I was. She said 20. So we finally called and asked me to go out. I said, I don't go out with guys with mustaches. I was kidding. But he says to me, well, I'll shave it off. Well, that night when he came to get me, I went, oh my gosh, what did I do? Russell had a great sense of humor. He just loved talking with people. He had a lot of other interests too, but especially talking to people. And when he got the job as a school crossing guard, he was so happy. And the kids loved him. One time in the winter, he came home and told me these two kids were coming down the sidewalk toward him carrying a hat. And he thought it was somebody's hat that got lost, and they wanted to know if he knew who it belonged to. He said they finally got to him, and he was saying, I don't know who that belongs to. But they said, oh no, we bought this for you to keep your head warm and your ears warm. It gets so cold down here. And he was so touched. We still have the hat. It looks like one of those World War II bomber hats, you know, with the flaps and everything. And when kids found out that he had passed away, and all of a sudden he was getting all these people responding to it and saying how sorry they were. My husband made a difference in this world, and he did his best to do his job to the best of his ability. Whatever he undertook, he did. I miss him. It's been hard, but when he was getting ready to go home, I said to him, I said, Russell, it's okay to go. I said, the kids are going to help me, and I'm going to be okay. You can go now. I said, I want you to go with God's angels to heaven, and you just know that I'm going to be okay. And I thank God for the years that we had. We took care of each other, and love just makes the biggest difference. I keep finding cards that he sent me over the years, and when I feel down, they show up, and they're such a blessing. And I know he's watching, and I wish he could come and sit on this bench. Who knows? You never know. But I'm very grateful, and I thank God for every day that we had together.
The Beer and Chili Fest is just a few weeks away, which has gotten Gabe all worked up in the office.
Oh, chili. Hey, Dan, can I have some of your chili?
No, Gabe, you've already had chili every night this week.
But I love chili. The Beer and Chili Festival.
That's right, the 2025 Powder Keg Beer and Chili Fest is coming back to Exeter. On Saturday, October 4th, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., you can stop by Swayze Parkway and get your fill of beer and chili from vendors local to the Exeter area. There's no need to fear when Chilean beer is here. With so much happening related to Pairpoint Park at different boards and committee meetings over the last year, we wanted to recap a year's worth of committee progress in one video. In our next segment, we stitched together all of our updates about Pairpoint Park to give you the full history and an update of where we're at today.
In December of 2023, a tired and weathered-weary fence sat just off the sidewalk on Exeter's historic downtown Water Street.
Behind it, nothing but grass and remnants of a structure torn asunder by a roaring fire in June of 1990, where it has remained dormant ever since. This holed-up little alcove on 23 Water Street has been given a new life, as its now previous owners, Nancy Phillips and Elliot Berkowitz, have graciously donated the land to the town of Exeter, albeit given the stipulation that it be converted into a brand new park named Pairpoint Park. The town's planning board, Historic District Commission, Heritage Commission, and Conservation Commission all eagerly voted to support accepting the donation. At a special select board meeting on the morning of December 28th, the residents gathered to voice their support for the land acquisition, and the board voted unanimously to accept the donation.
For those who don't know, this is also the murder scene in my latest book. It's because it has been an eyesore to our downtown for decades. I think we need to look at the source of this donation. Nancy and Elliot have done more to improve the downtown, I think, than anyone else I know.
So yes, I walk downtown Exeter every day. Love the herons, love the eagles. Would love to have another spot to watch them from. And I agree this is another way to welcome people into our town.
This is an opportunity that is very generous for these guys to make the offer, and I think there's a track record in town of many groups and organizations, committees and commissions that are willing to step up, do the work, find grants, volunteer time, and I think the support in the room shows that there's people here willing to lend support, to stay involved, and not let this be something that is voted on and then becomes a burden.
Speaking with town manager Russ Dean, we get a glimpse of how the town feels given their newly acquired piece of land.
Once we went through the due diligence process and we understood where everything was, and we began to reflect a lot on the fact that we were actually going to have a really nice addition to our downtown with this park, it was clear to us all that this was a great opportunity for the town to be able to take advantage of, and we appreciate the genuine generosity of the donors involved, Elliot and Nancy, and we think it's going to be an asset to serve the town for years to come. So the core benefit of having a park like Pairpoint Park will be that people will come to the town and come to the downtown specifically with the knowledge that there is a downtown park that exists and a place for them to go and sit and enjoy lunch, just enjoy the scenic views of the river, and really just a place to make for their own to be part of the downtown. That's an open space.
The Select Board formed the Pairpoint Park Stakeholders Advisory Committee in early 2024 and tasked it with surveying the public and creating recommendations for the future park. The committee got right to work, launching an initial survey and highlighting the current state of the park for residents to see.
So it's a pretty small space. We're thinking of it like a pocket park. It's got a pretty steep grade to start with, but that doesn't mean we're going to end up that way. We have this fantastic granite on site that actually, looks like a pile of rubble, but it's pretty cool because it's antique granite. That might be a nice feature to use in some capacity. And then we have this amazing river view. The park extends to just shy of this cement wall here. That is owned by New Hampshire Fish and Game, and that won't be changing. That is not our property. But the rest of this can become whatever we might envision.
While the future of the park still remained in discussions at the committee level, volunteers kept the momentum going working with town departments to install a new fence at the property to allow passers-by the ability to see the park and imagine what could be there. In April 2024, the committee took feedback from 750 participants during the initial survey and earlier discussions to come up with 3 potential design concepts. Option 1 would feature an elevated deck that extends from the sidewalk all the way to the river's edge. This concept would include 1,800 square feet of fully accessible gathering space, a cutout in the deck for native trees, playful seating, and native vegetation. Option 2, known as the Shady Bosque, would feature a gently sloped walkway down to the edge of the river. It would include 1,400 square feet of gathering space, movable seating, and an overlook onto the river. Option 3, the Serpentine Path, would turn the site into a gently sloped winding path that leads to a curved overlook of the water. This design would feature rain gardens, planted mounds of artwork, and seating pods with 525 square feet of accessible gathering space. With these new designs, the committee launched a second survey, gathering 570 responses. The committee presented the findings of this survey along with their recommendations at the June 30th Select Board meeting. The survey results had a clear winner in the Shady Bosque design.
So you'd enter the park kind of in the middle of the parcel, where there would be a low retaining wall, potentially with a entrance sign or something sort of identifying where you are in a sense of place, and perhaps a couple of benches. And then you're quickly brought to number 2 on the plan, which is the sloped walk.
At the June 30th meeting, the committee had 4 asks for the Select Board.
First request is regarding the concept and theme. We would be seeking your approval of the Shady Bosque as the concept, as the vision for Pairpoint Park, along with the theme of local flora and fauna, history of the river, and environmental protection. These are in order of kind of what we need to move forward.
After a brief discussion with questions related to potential dog access for the park and fundraising or budget timelines, the board then decided to authorize the committee to move forward with their items and work with the town manager's office to draft the CIP item for the budget. With the first 4 official goals or committee charges now complete, the Pairpoint Park stakeholders are moving on to their 5th objective, investigating all sources of funding opportunities, including grants, donations, funding partners, and sponsorships. To learn more about the committee and the project to turn 23 Water Street into Pairpoint Park, visit the town website, exeternh.gov/PPSAC.
For our last segment, the Exeter Police and Fire Department helped fulfill JJ's Make-A-Wish.
Last week, a special surprise was put together for a special boy. While the family was away, friends and organizers from the New Hampshire Make-A-Wish put together backyard games, food and snacks, and presents, all in preparation to celebrate his wish day. Friends and family lined up in a row in anticipation as JJ pulled into the parking lot. JJ, now in recovery from cancer, got his big wish granted, getting to go on vacation with his family. But today, he gets to be a modern-day superhero. From capes and superpowers to the everyday firefighter, JJ and his friends jumped quickly to play in the backyard. But he had one last surprise waiting for him just down the street. A special day for a special boy. Getting the chance to have his wishes granted is a very beautiful thing to see, and with a big smile on his face, it's safe to say it was a wish well made.
That does it for this week's Beast of a Report. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to help us spread the word. Head over to the town website and subscribe to the town email newsletter to get this show and other local news sent straight to your inbox. We'll be back on September 12th for the next edition of the show. But before we go, we want to wish a big happy birthday to Bob's little baby, Olivia, who turned the big one yesterday. For Exeter TV, I'm Dan Monchek, and this has been the Exeter Biweekly Report. Have a great weekend, Exeter. Boards and committee meetings over the last year. What happened? Was it not good? Wow. You getting that? Wow. Just thought that might have been fitting. I don't know.